welcome to lesson 3 of straight line graphs. This lesson we're going to discover how to plot a line if we're given the equation of a straight line. Now, in the previous two lessons, which can be accessed through the links at the top here, we have discussed the coordinates, we've discussed horizontal, and we've discussed vertical lines. Today we're going to be plotting straight lines, some of which may be vertical or horizontal, but the majority of them will be on an angle. We're going to discuss the slope or gradient as it's called in a later lesson, but for this lesson all we're looking to do is to be able to plot the equation of a straight line. In an exam you may not be given a table for which to do this. However, you will be asked, just like here, you'll be asked to plot the graph of y equals 3x plus 4. You may get a different equation, but we're going to start with a quite simple one here. Now, assuming the exam board doesn't give you a table, the first thing that you should do is create a table. I have to say that's the worst line there for a long time, so let's do that one again. So here we have a table, and we're going to have our x values on the top and our y values on the bottom. We're going to pick values for x. Now, the way I think of it is we need at least two numbers, so I'm actually going to pick 4 numbers. 2 gives me a line, the third number checks that it's on the line, and the fourth number just to be safe. So the way I think of this, we've got our equation, which is y equals 3 lots of whatever we're going to call x plus 4. Now, some people might think of this as a function machine, whereas if we start with x, whatever we do, we then times by 3 and then add 4, and that gives us our y value. Any of these are correct. I'm going to do our first one as 0, so if we put the 0 in here, 3 times nothing, 3 times, if we put the 0 in here, 3 times nothing is nothing, add 4 and we get 4, so the answer here will be 4. So I put that in my table. Now the next number, in the sequence, if we take away that naught, the next number that we need to choose in our table is the number 1. So if I put the number 1 in, we get 3 times 1, which is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7, so my answer is going to be 7. And if we choose the next number and change this to a 2, we get 3 times 2, which is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10, so the next number is going to be 10. Now, if we take the last number, which I will do in black, we're going to get 3 times 3, which is 9, and then add on the 4, and we get 13. And plotting each of these points, first of all we go none across and we go 4 up, so you'll get the point here. Then the next one we go 1 across and we go 7 up, we get the point there. 2 across and 10 up gives us this point here, and 4 across, oh sorry, 3 across and 13 up gives us this point here. And if we are clever enough, we should be able to now draw our line through these points. Not the straightest of lines, but you can see where I'm getting it for on this one. Let me just try to make it a little bit better. There we go. There we go. Through all of them. Now this line that we've just drawn has an equation, and just for completeness I like to draw y equals 3x plus 4. Okay. Now let's do another example. Remember, you can pause and rewind this at any stage. Let's do another example here, and let's choose the equation y equals 5x minus 1. Well, remember, step 1, we draw our table, draw and complete our table. So here's our table, x on the top, there we go, and again I choose the numbers 0, 1, 2 and 3. I don't always choose those numbers, but they seem to be the easiest ones to use. And if you prefer the flow method where we put the x in, the first thing that we're going to do is times by 5, and then once we've done that we're going to take away 1, and that will give us our y value. So here we go, 0 times 5 is nothing, take away 1, minus 1. 1 times 5 is 5, take away 1 is 4. Then sub in the 2, you go 2 times 5 is 10, take away 1 is 9. And 3 times 5 is 15, take away 1 is 14. And then we plot our coordinates. So 0 minus 1, it's going to be there. 1, 4 is to be there. 2, 9, and 3, 14. And we draw our line. And we try to get it as well as we can. Try to get it as neat as we can. Now obviously using a ruler on graph paper this would be so much easier. But that's close enough, and don't forget to label the graph. I like to label it here, some people label it differently, but here we've got y equals 5x minus 1. Now we can do more difficult ones. I'm going to do a more difficult one for you now, where instead of using nice whole numbers, they could use y equals a half x plus 2. It looks difficult, but let's go through exactly the same principle. Let's do our table, x and y, 0, 1, 2 and 3. Half of nothing. Oh, let's do our flow diagram first, sorry. So we get our x value, we're going to half it, or times by a half. Then we're going to add on 2, and our answer will be y. So let's start here. A half of nothing is nothing. Add on 2, you get 2. half of 1. Well, I know that a half of 1 is a half, but adding on 2 gets a bit complicated. So let's leave this number 1 out for a minute and go to the number 2. What's half of 2? Half of 2 is 1. Add on 2, you get 3. Half of 3 causes a problem again, so let's miss it out. Half of 4 is 2. Add on 2, you get 4. Oh, well, we only need 3 points. Well, let's just plot these 3 points then to start with. So 0, 2, 0, 2, which is there. Then we're going to go across to 2 and go up to 3, which is there. We're going to go across to 4 and up to 4, which is there. And we can draw our line here. Okay. Let's see now. That's pretty close enough. And here we go. Let's now y equals a half x plus 2. So there we go. Sometimes it's easier to miss odd ones out. I mean, if you wanted to know that half of 1 is a half, so that's going to be 2.5 when you add on the 2, and a half of 3 is 1.5, so 1.5 plus 2 is 3.5. And if we look, 1.5 and 2.5, that's right. 3 and 3.5, that's right. So they do lie on the equation, but they're a little bit more tricky to do. But there's no harm in them. So this lesson, we've pretty much covered all that I want to do on plotting equations, but let's just for completeness show you what would happen if they asked you to do a vertical line. So what would happen, or a horizontal line, what would happen if they gave you a simple equation like y equals 4x, or even easier than that, what would happen if they asked you y equals 4? Well, if you put your x and your y value here, and you got your 0, 1, 2 and 3, do you have a y value, an x value to substitute in for 0? No. So your y value is going to be 4 all the way along here, because there's nothing for you to put in. So that would basically mean 0, 4 is there, 1, 4 is there, 2, 4 is there, 3, 4 is there, and so this line would be all the way. If I can rub this out, this would be the line all the way along here. And that would be the line y equals 4. Anyway, I hope you've got this lesson. Remember to, you can always pause. You can always pause and rewind at whatever stage you want. And remember to follow me on Twitter, where there's more resources to be found. And if you like the video, give it the thumbs up, or even better, subscribe. Okay, thank you for watching, and I hope you look in your exams.